get a move on.
Hey folks, Chris Waters here in the GameSpot studios, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to The Last of Us Spoilercast. I'm joined by Shaun McGinnis on my left, Tom McShay on my right. We've all beaten The Last of Us. We love the game. There's a lot to talk about in it, and just so you know, spoilers. This whole thing is spoilers.
Yeah. If you haven't finished the game, it is going to be spoiled for you.
You should probably go out, buy the game, play the game, and then watch this.
Yes. It's an excellent game, and it starts off with a prologue that people have gone crazy for on Twitter, and is just very sets the tone, establishes characters, and let's talk about that real quick as we take a look at the prologue itself here. This is Joel and his daughter Sarah. Joel is the guy you play as during the game.
Tommy, listen to me.
What are your impressions from this dude, Tom? I know you have opinions about how Joel establishes himself in this first scene.
I really don't like Joel.
Okay.
And I really didn't like him from the beginning of the scene. And so the way this opens is that he is coming home at 11:50 doing contract work on his birthday. And he knows his daughter's waiting for him, and he knows his daughter.
I hope the shot got you doing the sarcastic air quotes there.
So I just, like, my immediate gut impression of him is like, this guy is kind of up to no good.
So Joel gets off to like a bad start in your eyes.
In my eyes, yeah, because I mean they live in like a big house, so it's not like they don't have a lot of money. And he's working like some unnamed job that sounds seedy if it's like going to midnight.
All right, so sure, like I'll give you that there could be a little bit of shadiness. But he says urgently, like, I can't lose this job.
Yeah.
He's the contractor, like
I can't afford to lose this job.
And you know, he has this tender moment with his daughter, but the impression I got was not one of a dude doing shady things. And I certainly did not get the impression that this is a well-to-do family. Like, he is a single dad. He is working very hard. He makes a joke about the girl, about Sarah helping out with the mortgage payments. That's a sizable house, yes, but it's not the house of a rich person. This is a house in the suburbs of a Texan city. This dude could be like, I missed 2 mortgage payments and then I'm done. We're out on the street.
Yeah.
That's the impression I got from him as a dude trying to, like, stay afloat.
And we also don't know the situation with his wife too.
Yeah,
maybe
addressed.
His wife could have easily been the breadwinner in the family. She could have been the one who was able to afford them that big house, and all of a sudden she's out of the picture, and now Joel is struggling to be a single father, providing for his daughter,
so I guess
working late.
There's 2 ways to interpret, because they deliberately chose birthday 11:50. Like, that wasn't a mistake.
They chose late, and there's a note on the fridge that's like, I'm coming home late again.
Yeah.
Like, he clearly does this a lot.
So there's 2 choices: is either he's just really hardworking, kind of has to ignore Sarah because of this, or that he's doing shady things. And he's keeping this family afloat by doing things that are not, because 11:50.
What if he's a little bit of both? What if he's like,
he
has to do something shady because he needs this job? I mean, so what about this characterization to you then makes you dislike him? Because I think that's where we end up differing.
Yeah.
You know, is what our eventual, not sort of the facts of the matter, but what does that then inform you about Joel's character?
He definitely seems like he's cut from the cloth of he will do literally anything he can to survive. And to an extent, that is perfectly understandable because you're living in a harsh world. Most of this world is harsh. But you see those glimpses in the beginning of the game.
You're saying this is planting the seeds of a dude who would go to whatever lengths.
And it continues when he has a confrontation with Tommy, his brother. And we don't know if they're talking about before or after the incident, but clearly he and Tommy engaged.
They are talking about after the incident.
They engaged in murder.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Tommy is really upset by what happened.
Yeah. So the conversation, which actually we have here, I believe it's the why bring her a cutscene, but it's sort of towards the end of this encounter with Tommy. You know, he's laying it out for him, like, hey, Tommy, you know, she's immune. Like, it's really important that we do something for her. The scene is like they don't get along.
Nope.
And they didn't really. They weren't like buddy in the prologue.
Nope.
And so now this is. But the stuff you're referencing is, you know,
he's got something to do with that girl.
Joel is like, you owe me for what I did. We survived. Tommy says, it wasn't worth it.
Yes, exactly.
What a line to tell your brother, to be like, I would have rather died than do the shit we did to survive. And so, I think that all is fully after the fact. It is after Sarah gets shot. It is after society gets broken, and after, crucially, Joel gets broken.
Well, I can ask Shaun. Like, does it matter if he becomes this do anything to survive before or after, in your eyes?
Does it matter if? So you're asking me
yes.
if like.
So he's
if
a
that
character.
changes his character if we know that he's that type of guy early on at the beginning of the game.
Does that like change how it is? Because we know that afterwards some characters are like that and some are not. So it's not like innate to the zombie apocalypse. Does that change how you view him? I guess.
I didn't have the same interpretation of him as you did.
Okay.
Like at the beginning of the game, like as far as I'm concerned, he was out working late. You know, he's trying to provide for Sarah. He's a single father. He's doing whatever it takes to get by. And in that respect, he is doing whatever it takes to survive because he is sacrificing a little bit of his relationship with his daughter in order to ultimately provide a better life for her.
Okay.
That's the way that I view him. And obviously that transitions into some darker stuff later in the game.
Yes.
But I think the game succeeds in initially setting him up as a sympathetic character, a guy that I can identify with, and a guy, he's not an easy guy to like.
Okay.
He's a very, I mean, at the beginning of the game, at the beginning of the game, he's not likable. He plays it close to the vest. He keeps his emotions locked up tight inside him. But he's
in
a
the
guy.
Prologue or like right from once the game gets go 20 years in Boston, like we're talking about.
I mean, the prologue kind of hints at it.
Yeah.
Well, the prologue.
I mean, he doesn't
certainly,
say thank you for the watch,
right.
Sarah.
I think what the prologue does is it succeeds in illustrating why Joel is an emotionally broken human being.
Well, it illustrates that he's an emotionally broken human being. It doesn't illustrate why.
No, I think what happens to Sarah in that prologue.
Well, but he's emotionally distant already before that, and I kind of wish they would have explored. I don't
know
need
whether
to.
you can say that he's emotionally distant in the prologue.
I mean, he's not warm and fuzzy, but
Yeah.
he certainly has some affection for his daughter,
Yeah.
and she obviously adores him. So it's I think that's more of just like I'm a dude. I don't know really how to do emotions to my little girl, but like
he's a tough, burly dude from Central Texas, and he's a single guy, he struggles. I mean, I get the sense that he's a guy who struggles to communicate with his daughter, but there's a tenderness there.
I don't know. He reminded me of Peter Fonda from Oh My Darling Clementine.
That is a
Topical.
That is a
comparison that
topical
I
one
do not
from
get
60
at
years
all.
ago.
So I want to talk to you. You actually had an interesting point about a trope
Yes.
that Joel is sort of like attached to.
The first two major female characters you meet in this game are Sarah, his daughter, and then Tess, 20 years later, who is his partner in crime.
Yeah.
And they are both, they don't have much time on screen, and they die very quickly. And
Sarah dies very quickly. Tess does not die very quickly.
She died. I guess there's about an hour.
She's in there for a couple hours.
You have a significant amount of time with
Yeah.
her because she's basically towards the end of the Boston section, and
Yeah.
then you go to the Lincoln. We don't go to Lincoln / Ravenholm level. But so Tess, or even in the first scene, and we don't have that cutscene, but this will be her last scene. But right away, you see Tess has gone out and done some deed, and you come back, and it's immediately clear these are people who do crimes. They do crimes. They do crimes to survive, but also, they're partners, but they're not lovers. There's no tenderness between them. They don't touch each other. He's like, why'd you go off early? She's like, well, you didn't want any company.
Yeah.
And like
they're very bristly.
Well, and I think here in this scene, you see Tess because she gets, she reveals the fact that she's bitten and she's gonna die. She breaks down.
Yeah.
You see her more emotionally vulnerable, and you still see Joel is that barrier. So that to me just traces that through line of Joel's barriers. Joel is a emotionally broken dude, and so he just set up a quarantine zone around his heart. So cheesy, but I couldn't resist saying it. But basically, he's like, no, I won't care about anybody.
Okay.
I will shut you out, and I'll be an asset.
I agree.
I think, Tom, I think you make a really good point.
Well, I didn't actually bring up what the trope was.
Yeah.
Why don't we
So the trope
continue that?
is that these women die, his daughter and Tess die, basically to further a male character's character development.
Right. And I think that's actually a really good point.
Also, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, so why
The
is that?
third female who dies to further that is his wife, who's never mentioned, or who disappears.
Well, she doesn't die in the
You don't
game.
know
That's
if
just
or who
that's
disappears.
backdrop.
She
Yeah.
left them.
We don't know how it is, but
so-
a woman's absence.
So just
furthering.
to go a little bit further, why is that a bad thing? Why is this something that caught your attention?
Because it doesn't feel like they're respecting the women in these choices, and they only kind of exist for sacrificial lambs, so Joel is more fleshed out, so we can see, oh, he's distant, oh, he doesn't want to love because he's been hurt before. Like, that's kind of what it feels like, and I felt like I wanted to spend more time with Sarah and Tess and get to know them more.
So I think that's a really good point, and that kind of speaks to one of the primary weaknesses in the game, which is that it does get off to a slow start. And this is a game that grows by leaps and bounds by its second and third act.
Every hour is better than the last.
Yeah, absolutely. And that first act of the game, it does get off to a slow start. And I was like, okay, this game is really good. And it wasn't until like 6-7 hours into it that I was like, holy crap, this is the best game I've played all year. Now, the point that I'm trying to make in a very roundabout way.
You have a real flat emotion for greatness.
Yeah. The point that I'm trying to make is that so that's a cliche. That's a storytelling cliche. The woman who dies to further the development of a male character, we see that. I mean, that's God of War.
Yeah.
That's what we've seen out of Watch Dogs. You know, it's the revenge motivation. It's driving them to do something.
Yeah, I agree.
What I think The Last of Us does differently is that it turns that trope around a little bit. This is not a revenge fantasy. This is not like a quest for vengeance. Joel shuts down emotionally. It doesn't drive him from point A to point B. It drives him even deeper back within point A. You know, he's not fueled by revenge or anything like that. With
He's not trying
the way
to
you see
justify actions based on their but the loss of those people.
Right,
or
and
anything.
it puts that trope sort of. What I like about this game is that they do something very different with that. It's too bad that they use that cliche at the beginning of the game, and it's hard to identify with his character as a result, but I really like the way it turns it around, and he's not fueled by revenge. He's just a guy who is just emotionally broken.
And also,
he shuts down.
I think that the characters of Sarah, the daughter figure, and of Tess, the aggressive warrior partner figure, those two characters inform Joel's relationship with Ellie, and you see, you know, Ellie sort of how Joel his interaction with her as if she's a daughter. Like that percolates up a little bit. His interaction with her as if she's a warrior, that eventually comes around. And so her then coming to fill those roles, I think because those roles are established ahead of time with Tess and with Sarah, I think that gives you a little bit more richness there, and because you kind of see Joel incorporating her into his life through those ways.
Okay, I guess I have a question just playing off what Shaun said.
Yeah.
What does motivate Joel?
I was honestly asking myself that question because, you know, up until Tess dies, it's clear that they're going to get the guns and smuggle them, and that's his surviving business.
That's not actually his motivation. His motivation for the guns is to survive.
Yes.
So I guess, like, what is his... It's the broader...
But then beyond, like, why does he take Ellie to Pittsburgh? And why does he go to friggin' Jackson Hole? Like, is it just because he doesn't have shit to do? Is it because Tess, in that last moment, exhorted him, if there's any connection here, you'll do this for me, you'll bring her to Tommy? I don't know. What do you think?
I think this kind of circles back to something that happens at the very end of the game where he's talking to Ellie and she seems down and out, and he reinforces the idea to her that in this world that we live in, you have to latch on to something, some goal, some objective in order to survive, because otherwise you're not going to have what it takes to get to the next day. And so
did he? Because I think this is the cutscene you're talking about. Is when they're looking.
He's talking about the final cutscene.
The very end of the game.
Oh, you were talking about
the absolute very end of the game.
This cutscene is when he goes. When she has to make this choice, like, do you want to continue
He's
further?
like, we could just go back and chill on Jackson Hole.
So he's doing that, and then she says, no, we have to, it can't be for nothing, is her quote. So she's kind of the one who's kind of doing this driving, there has to be a purpose to our existence. It's not Joel who does that.
He says that. He says that absolutely at the very end of the game.
So that,
well, he says there has to be a purpose for
there
your
has to be
existence, but this is a key difference because this is not a story about the Fireflies. This is not a story about Marlene, the heroes struggling for the return of government, for the solving the pandemic. Joel doesn't give two shits about that stuff. He doesn't. He said he pins you. You have to do what you need to do to survive, and for him, that's not a noble goal. It justifies any action clearly. Whereas Ellie's it has to mean something. It has to be more than that.
So what is Joel's driving force?
For something, not just for living. I think I think it's a very animalistic driving force to survive.
Okay. Is that what your gut was with Joel too, or do you think you have a different motivation at his
No,
core?
I think so. I think that he is just a guy who is trying to find whatever inspiration he can to get to the next day. And it's something that he struggles with because, and this goes back to why the prologue is so powerful, is that the one thing he had in this world was taken away from him.
Yeah.
And so now he's just like, he's an emotionally broken, misguided guy who's just trying to find whatever he can.
I agree. I think that because I think we all agree that mere survival is his driving force, and I think that's why I felt such disdain for him, because he doesn't have that greater purpose. He doesn't have that human heart that I really wanted to latch onto, and that's why the first 4 hours were really slow for me, because none of the characters aside from Sarah in the beginning really were human. And so, and then Ellie comes on, and Ellie is just like the shining light of all that makes humanity tick.
So when you say they're not human, you mean that there's no, like, someone who exists just to survive is not an interesting character to you. It's like, not a sympathetic character.
I don't know if you said this or Shaun, but it's the animalistic nature of it. Like, it's going back to the Dark Ages when it really was just hand to mouth, and it was not anything deeper than that.
And that's what this game is set in. That's where we're at. And there's actually
But not every character has that mentality. Tommy doesn't, and Ellie doesn't. So it shows that there's a breadth.
They do at certain points throughout the game. You clearly know that Tommy spent time like that, and then he tried to move. And then he tried to move on. He went to the Fireflies, but then he, ended up where he is. There are actually two scenes that struck me as parallel because the line "You're an animal" is literally uttered. One of them is the nurses saying that to Joel when in that final scene before he speared away Ellie, you're forced to shoot the doctor, and you take Ellie away and they say, "You're an animal."
Yeah.
Then the other time is David, when he has Ellie in the cage, he slides her the plate of food, and he's just, he's trying to smooth talk her, trying to still be this, like, this is a safe space thing. She asks, is this meat human? And then she just calls him a fucking animal, but then gets down on her knees like an animal and just like starts gobbling down this food. And so this theme of reverting to the animalistic, I mean, you see that throughout all the environmental designs and the featuring of literal animals. Like, this is the world that we're living in now. And so it takes so much for a human to just be a successful animal in this world. I think for me, that's what makes the character of Joel a little more sympathetic than it does for you, because that sheer effort to just fight against the despair of life and the physical exigencies of living in this post-pandemic world is, like, I think that's a monumental effort to even overcome that stuff. That
gets to the ending, because the whole point of the game is hope, and Ellie represents hope because she is the cure. So if you're trying to fight through the despair and try to find a reason to live, wouldn't his choice at the end not make any sense and kind of contrast with that? Because he is dooming humanity to this state, to this animalistic state, instead of giving rise to like real civilization again.
I think every character in this game has a different sense of hope for a different objective. Like for Joel, obviously he's got hope that humanity will return to its former glory after the vaccination.
I do not
Wait, did you say Joel said that?
No, I do not.
Joel doesn't want the vaccination even.
No, I mean, like, in the abstract sense, everybody wants humanity to return to its former.
I don't think so. I think Joel has given up on that. I think that he is literally so broken that he is just like, this is it. And just as the game has a part about hope, you can't have hope without despair. And this game is so much about despair. And that's why I think actually the slow beginning really got to me, because I had time to just sit in this world and like live and soak it in.
Just doing it.
Soak it in, the fact that like, this is what we have. Like, this is it. And I think Joel clearly demonstrates that he doesn't have hope. I think that he fights against hope. I think that a lot of his interactions being brusque with Ellie is him sensing in himself that it's kindling like a bit of that humanity, and that just lights off the bomb inside him, because that's Sarah, that's his entire world, that's the trauma of the pandemic. Yeah. And he's like, nope. Ellie, I'm not your father. You sure as hell ain't my daughter. Get out of here. Like, you're stupid. I hate you. Just come along and shut up. Like, that's him freaking out because he doesn't want to become that vulnerable.
Well, the most important thing that we should, like, the fact that we can argue about Joel and his motivations and who he is really rare
Yeah.
In any medium. Like, this isn't just a game thing. I hated him. Like, he's in the top of my least favorite characters ever for games and movies, because I just thought he was a horrible human being.
Yeah.
And like, you guys didn't have that. You were more sympathetic, and you think I was a little crazy with my hatred.
I mean, there's no point in which I liked Joel as a human being, but I think he's one of the most fascinating, complex characters I've played in a video game in years.
So here's the big question. When he falls from the balcony and he gets a metal spike through his stomach.
Do we have that cutscene?
We do have that. We don't have the cutscene of that. We do have a little after, which I'll queue up.
Okay.
What did you want to happen to him? Because this will probably be very different between us.
Well, first off, I'll say Carolyn Pettit was going to join us, but she couldn't make it in today. But she was playing that in the office, and she just exclaimed, like, holy, and there's so many moments like that where I literally was exclaiming as well. So what did I want to happen to him?
As you watch right now, like, he just fell off the horse.
I don't think I was conscious of wanting anything to happen to him, but after this scene ends and it cuts to black, I was like, instantly I was like, we're coming back, I'm gonna be playing as Ellie, there's gonna be no fucking Joel at all. It's over, it's The Last of Us. It's literally in the title, I'm gonna be playing as the last of the us of Ellie and Joel. And then, sure enough, you are playing as Ellie, turns out Joel's not actually dead, which I
like how you hesitated because you didn't want to spoil it. I thought that was really nice.
I don't know what but
Shaun, did you want him to die? Did you want him to live? What did you want to happen?
So I didn't want him to die because I could tell that he was making progress in his relationship with Ellie.
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, that whole quiet scene around the university, they're like joking about singing and stuff.
Yeah.
He's
Man,
I
mean, I'm calling up the scene that like cemented that I'm gonna hate this character forever. This scene, rewatching it today, recapturing this, like broke my heart.
This was their crisis point.
It is.
This is where
this is real. This is what Joel thinks. And
that is what he thinks at one point in the game. But his character evolves throughout the story.
Oh my God. When Ellie counters him with like, you're not the only one who lost stuff. Like, it was just like so much more adult than what Joel is. Joel is like the animal, the child, the undeveloped person in this.
Look, this is.
So you didn't want him to die, though.
No, and so I didn't want him to die. And the reason is I wanted to see Ellie be able to take care of him.
Okay.
I wanted to see those roles reversed. I wanted, because so much of the game is about just Joel taking care of Ellie, being the usher, guiding her along, and for her to be able to rescue him as like she's guiding him, just like distraught and on the verge of death to safety. I thought that was such a fascinating role reversal, and I wanted her to be able to just take that next step as a character.
I was really pleased with where the story went when she takes care of him. I did ultimately just want him to die after that.
I gotta get this asshole out of my face.
But seeing her as the matron was all of a sudden like, wow, she.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest turning points in the game, is because that is the point at which Joel really starts opening himself up to her. That's when he like finally starts to like let him into his life emotionally.
This scene, you mean?
Yeah.
This scene that we're watching right now, because after this, he says this is basically like the meanest he ever is.
Yeah.
To Ellie, but then that's
it's the meanest you could possibly be to a person.
And I think
he doesn't strike her.
Right.
Notional words are a lot worse than this.
But then he's like, get on my horse. We are going. Sorry, Tommy. Like, thanks anyway, but we're gonna do this. So he has reawoken. He has let her back in, and that ultimately leads to now his reason for surviving is her.
Yeah.
And that is why he, that's why he has to take her out of that hospital, and why he kills Marlene, and then why he lies to her face in the last scene. And I actually would like to talk about that last scene real quick. We looked at it a little bit earlier.
Well, I'm going to call up the one right before that, just so we can cut to this also.
Okay.
So the last.
Did you have the moment in this scene, like later on? It goes from here to him driving away, and then comes back here. Were you like, oh, he just imagined that was one outcome?
I didn't think it was imagining.
Now he's going to really decide that he can't do that.
You cannot.
I had a moment thinking that they were going to do that kind of thing, but no.
This was a weird moment because like she's now one of my favorite characters ever. Like, very short list. Ellie is.
Oh,
Ellie? Yeah.
And I wanted her to die
you
so
you
bad.
wanted her to be on that bed.
I wanted her. Yeah, I wanted her to go through the surgery. I wanted them to find a. Like, I wanted that so bad, and like, because you walk up to the doctor and you have to do it.
Yep.
And I was like, where is there another?
Can I walk
choice
elsewhere?
Because I was like,
I'm curious, how did you dispatch those surgeons at the end? Because Chris and I had slightly different tactics for that. Because the surgeons are standing around her while she's on the operating table. I popped him in the leg with a handgun just to get him out of the way because I didn't want to kill that.
I shot Scalpel Guy with an arrow and he just flopped over dead. The other two didn't bother me at all while I grabbed Ellie.
Yeah, you have to kill the Scalpel Guy, it looks like. And the other two you don't. But it was one of those things like, I know the character's Joel and not me, but I was like, I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. And I was so upset. Yeah, and I don't think I've ever played a game where I wanted like this character that I really like to die. But like that was like the whole point of the game is that she has to die, and like we all knew this from the beginning. So I was like really upset about that.
I mean, it's a really upsetting. This game is wrenching and takes you to these depths, and it's fascinating and wonderful because of it. But let's talk about the last scene.
Yeah.
Ellie tells a little story about listing like a few of the people that have died. There was her friend Riley, and then there was Tess, and then there was Sam. Like, when's it? What? And Joel says his line about you got to find something to latch onto. Yeah. Clearly, he's found Ellie to latch onto to the exclusion of any other consideration. And here we go. But then Ellie makes him swear to me everything he said about the Fireflies is true. He looks at her, he hesitates briefly, and then just says, "I swear." What is this? She says, "Okay." What is this look in her face? Does she know that he's lying? What is Ellie's mindset at the end of this scene as the game closes and the credits roll?
It's funny. It's one of those endings where the credits rolled and I was like, "What the fuck? That's it?"
Yep.
And then the more time goes by, the more I love this ending because A, I can't stop thinking about this ending, and B, it just it encapsulates the themes of the game so well, which is that you just do whatever you can to survive in a harsh situation, and these characters kind of have to lie to themselves a little bit to survive.
So let me put out a couple options. Ellie says, okay, understanding that Joel will do anything to survive, even if that means lying to her. She is now his reason to survive and protect her life at all costs. Ellie says, okay, I may seriously have my doubts about what you said, but we're going to go live this life in this town, and it's not going to be bad, and it's going to be something that I could, and you're a person I care about, and you're not going away. I accept the uncertainty about my past. Let's move on. Does she say okay because she straight up believes him? I don't think that last one is true.
There's no way that she's able to live in this town.
You don't think so?
There's no, based on what we know, and I queued up the cutscene earlier where she's like, there has to be a reason. There has to be a purpose. She's not Joel. She's not just thinking about today and tomorrow and what I'm going to eat and where I'm going to live. She actually has hope that this is not it for humanity. So there's no way that she's going to accept this.
Yeah, also, someone's going to see her arm at some point and be like, you're infected, and then that whole circle of questions comes up again. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I think the hope that they have now is that these two have a relationship now. They spend like 95% of the game just butting heads constantly, and then finally, at the very end of the game, they're able to forge a bond and relationship.
So do you think that's enough for Ellie going forward?
I mean, that's the thing, is that I don't know. I think the game does a great job.
What do you think, though? What does your gut tell you? What's going on right now?
I think it's enough for them to convince themselves that they can move forward with the life that they've established for themselves. And that's one of the reasons that I like the ending so much, is that it leaves that up to you to decide. I think Ellie knows, or Ellie has at least a strong suspicion that Joel is lying to him, and I think
Why would she just leave there, totally drugged up in her hospital gown? Not even.
There's no way. She's not stupid.
And Joel has spent enough time around Ellie that he knows that she's a smart girl, and she can tell that he is lying to her. And I think these people are just kind of accepting the fact that they need to deny the truth in order to, just finally achieve this hope that they've been building up to.
To me, I think Ellie is just saying all right, that's her taking stock of Joel and his mindset, and then she's saying, all right, we'll do this, we'll live here for a while, but it's never going to end that way for her. She's going to always wonder. She's going to maybe try to find her way back.
Well, she's not asking him, are you lying to me? She's asking him, do you have hope for the future beyond your own selfish needs? And he says, I don't have hope. And she said, okay. That's what that conversation is. She needed to get from his mouth, is this it for you? Is day-to-day enough for you? And he said, yes. And that's why, it's a brilliant ending.
No, I think that's a really good analysis, Tom.
Because it's you know how easy it would be to go the other, like the safer route, the happy ending, even if the happy ending is her dying. Like that's the route we all basically wanted.
Just sit down and she's watching a movie and her eyes light up for the first time because she's seeing an actual fucking movie, and then whatever.
But that's the game can't end like this because the game is so bleak and it doesn't want to make humanity ultimately good, which is why all these characters are cast in this negative light, I think.
Yeah, and all right, so we're getting to the end of our runtime here. I just want to also mention this is such a bleak world, but it's such an incredibly beautifully, richly realized world. I mean, from environmental design, the game is to just creating this whole world. The sheer amount of different ways you see the apocalypse manifested in people's lives, from inside the military quarantine zone to post, to just the skeletal remains of a quarantine zone, to a quarantine zone that was taken over by the Fireflies but is now run by bandits, to the guy who was living in the sewers with his own little community that he found,
that guy was great.
That you trace through letters.
That guy was Shaun McInnes in the
loner Bill in Lincoln, setting up his own little Ravenholm, to the people, to Tommy and his crew, to it's just incredibly well realized imagination of so many different facets of that world and different ways people's lives could go. I mean, it's stunning.
Yeah, and I think it's just a really incredible twist on just the classic American storytelling of that journey west. It feels like a Western in a lot of ways, where these guys are going from Boston, they're going out west. They just have this sense that there's something out there that they need, this potential. They don't know what it is, but they're propelled to go west. And you combine that with I forget the name of the composer, but he's the guy who did Brokeback Mountain. And he just does this incredible kind of like folksy, twangy, almost classical, like really sparse guitar score. And it just works so well
music is incredible.
Just like the vistas of the mountains of like Salt Lake City and just like all that. It's awesome.
It totally is. Tom, any closing thoughts on The Last of Us?
I'm disappointed we didn't talk more about Ellie's progression, because the scene where she first kills is like,
oh god, I totally shut the hell out of that guy, didn't I?
And I feel sick, and it's just like, because we spent so much time with Joel, we didn't talk as much about Ellie, and Ellie is such a well-realized character.
She's a fantastic character.
She's genuinely funny, and she's like at times, and she has so much like, we're gonna learn to swim after this, and she just understands what it's like to be human more than almost any character I see in any kind of work of literature.
And this is a fascinating. I love the line at the end of this where she's like, "How about I saved your ass? You got anything like that for me, Joel?" Like she pushes back, and I think that but she also goes to the depths, right? Where she is in that whole struggle, that whole boss fight with David, and then she's just hacking his head to bits with a machete. That scars her, and you see, the next season, you see her, and she's still like, holy shit.
I know.
I did that. But she bounces back from that. She then can say it needs to be worth it. And I think here is the crucial difference is what it boils down to me. Ellie is building her worldview, her adult worldview in this game. Like, she knows about the world, but now she's basically learning what it is like to be an adult in this world. And we see that as a progression where she, hits the bottom and then realizes she has to carry on, and she has that spirit which draws everybody to her. Joel's worldview is broken in the prologue, and that's something he never recovers from. He can't put it back together. Even when he tries to with Ellie, he's still a broken human. He's choosing his own selfish, their own selfish life over the salvation of humanity. I mean, he is a broken character. I think, to me, he had his sympathetic moments, but they're just these characters, and not to mention that the facial animations do such a wonderful job of adding just that beautiful layer of subtlety to all their interactions.
Yeah, like when she asks him the question at the end, he waits a second and he kind of twists his body slightly.
He touches his watch.
And it's just like these little touches, and you're like, that guy is such a liar.
Yeah. Oh, it's heartbreaking, and it's wonderful. It's The Last of Us, folks. You guys going back for New Game Plus?
I played it on debug. I really want to play it on hard.
I'm planning on it.
Folks, if you don't know, the cutscenes are in a gallery in the menu once you beat it. And so I was looking back through them and just, oh god, I got to play this game, man. All right, any other final thoughts? If you guys want to keep this conversation going, jump in the comments. We'll certainly be checking them out. And, hit us up on Twitter, whatever you want to do. Obviously, there's a whole lot more to talk about. We love this game. For all this discussion and all the discussion to come. For Shaun McInnes, Tom McShay, I'm Chris Waters. Thanks. Thanks for watching.